people carry without ever naming it. A belief that somewhere, someone is going to notice their effort and change everything. A friend who truly believes in them. A relative with wisdom, advice, or a bit of capital. A mentor who sends a message at the perfect time and opens a door that has felt locked for years. In this story, you are already trying. You're staying up late. You're thinking deeply. You're preparing. You scroll through your phone with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, wondering, what if today is the day they see me? What if approval, opportunity, or momentum is just one message away? It's an exciting story, almost comforting. It makes waiting feel productive. It turns delay into hope. And because the breakthrough feels close, we tolerate staying where we are a little longer. Days turn into months, months into years. We remain almost ready. Epictetus cuts through that illusion with one sharp question. How long will you wait? Not what do you want, not why do you want it, but how long are you willing to delay becoming the person who demands it? That question exposes something uncomfortable. Waiting is not neutral. It is not patience. It is not wisdom. Very often it is avoidance dressed up as strategy. Here is the truth that changes everything once you accept it. No one is coming to save you, not in the way you imagine. Support may appear, help may come, but rescue never does. The responsibility for movement has always been yours. Epictetus understood this deeply. Born into slavery, he had every excuse to believe his fate depended entirely on others. His body was controlled. His circumstances were brutal. Yet he taught that the only true freedom lies in refusing to delay command over your own choices. Waiting, from a Stoic point of view, is not passive. It is an active surrender of agency. This is why the first step toward demanding the best for yourself is not motivation, confidence, or vision. It is something far less glamorous and far more powerful. Auditing your waiting habits. This is where the work becomes honest. This is where excuses lose their camouflage. Think of it like turning on the lights in a room you've avoided cleaning. For a moment, it feels uncomfortable. You see clutter you ignored, but clarity always comes before order. Epictetus was uncompromising on this point. He believed that postponement is a form of self-harm, not dramatic, not obvious, but deeply corrosive. Every time you delay an action you know matters, you trade your future self's strength for present comfort. And comfort is a dangerous thing. Waiting habits rarely announce themselves loudly. They whisper, they sound reasonable, responsible even. You stay in a job you dislike because you're waiting for the right time to leave. You dream of independence but never update your resume or portfolio. You tolerate a draining relationship because you hope the other person will change. You postpone exercise until life becomes less busy, as if life has ever made that promise. These habits don't feel like failure, they feel like preparation. That's the trap. Modern culture rewards waiting. Everyone is working on it. Everyone is getting ready. Everyone has a plan that starts soon. But Stoicism asks a harsher question. What are you doing today that proves your intention is real? Without action, intention is just a story you tell yourself to feel better about delay. This is where the audit begins. Take a moment and imagine writing down the things you're waiting on. Not polished, not explained, just listed plainly. Waiting to apply, waiting to speak, waiting to leave, waiting to start. When you do this, something shifts. What was vague becomes concrete. And once something is concrete, it can be confronted. Naming a waiting habit removes its power. Vagueness protects fear. Clarity exposes it. When I did this exercise myself, I was surprised by what surfaced. I realized I was waiting for the perfect collaborator before creating anything meaningful. In my mind, this sounded smart, strategic. But when I wrote it down honestly, I saw the truth. I was outsourcing courage. I was using waiting as a shield against being seen imperfectly. The moment I named that, the excuse collapsed. I stopped waiting and started creating alone. Progress followed immediately. Not because conditions improved, but because authority returned to where it belonged. That is the pattern every time. Waiting survives on ambiguity, action destroys it. So now comes the pivot, the moment where philosophy turns into behavior. Choose one item from your waiting list, just one. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Look at it directly and demand a clear action that can be taken today. Not a life overhaul, not a flawless plan, one undeniable step. If the wait is about a new career path, the demand might be, today I will spend 20 minutes signing up for a free course and completing the first lesson. If it's about boundaries, it might be, today I will send one honest message stating what I will no longer accept. If it's about health, today I will walk for 10 minutes, no negotiation. Write the action like a command, not a hope. When the timer ends, stop. You have done the work of direction. Execution can follow. This is not a motivational trick. It is Stoic discipline in its purest form. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when you stop debating with reality and start governing your own responses. You do not wait for confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of action taken despite uncertainty. Something subtle but powerful happens when you do this. Energy returns. Not because the problem is solved, but because you are no longer passive. Waiting drains us because it puts life on hold. Demanding action restores momentum. Even a small step reminds you that you are not trapped. You are choosing. And here is the deeper layer. This audit is not a one-time exercise. It is a habit. Like brushing your teeth, its power comes from repetition. Once a week, 5 minutes. Ask yourself, what did I delay? What did I avoid? What can I demand now? Over time, patterns emerge. You begin to see where fear hides. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of change. Epictetus taught that fear is not an external force, it is a thought, and thoughts can be trained. When you catch a waiting habit, ask one more question. What story am I telling myself to justify this delay? Often the answer reveals an old wound, a borrowed belief, or a past disappointment that has quietly been running the show. Awareness loosens its grip. Action breaks it entirely. This is the end of unconscious waiting. By auditing your delays, you step out of the fantasy of rescue and into self-command. You stop asking who might save you and start asking what you will demand of yourself. You answer Epictetus not with words, but with evidence. And this is only the beginning. In the next part, we move from identifying delays to reclaiming power, learning how to focus relentlessly on what is within your control, even when the world feels unstable and chaotic. Waiting taught you what you've been avoiding. Control will teach you where your strength truly lives. For now, hold this truth firmly. The moment you stop waiting, your life starts responding. Your demand has begun. Part 2, reclaim your power. Master what you can control. Once you stop waiting, something uncomfortable but necessary happens. You begin to see the world more clearly. You notice how much energy you've been spending reacting to people, to circumstances, to news, to messages, to disappointment. This is where many people get stuck. They stop waiting, but they don't yet know where to place their effort. They feel motivated for a moment, then overwhelmed again. That's why Epictetus doesn't stop at action. He moves immediately to a deeper discipline, control. At the heart of Stoicism is a simple, demanding truth. Some things are up to you, and some things are not. Confusing the two is the fastest way to lose your power. Epictetus built his entire philosophy around this idea. He taught that freedom does not come from changing the world to your liking, but from refusing to let what you cannot control dominate your inner life. This lesson matters now more than ever. We live in a world of constant stimulation, breaking news, shifting markets, sudden layoffs, social comparison, endless opinions. If you try to control all of it, you will exhaust yourself and accomplish very little. If you focus only on what is yours to command, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Reclaiming your power begins with a shift in identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone at the mercy of circumstances and start seeing yourself as the manager of your responses. That may sound subtle, but it changes everything. Think about a recent moment that frustrated you, an email that irritated you, a message that went unanswered, a plan that fell apart. Most people replay these moments on a loop, feeding the same emotions again and again. Epictetus would call this self-inflicted suffering, not because the event didn't matter, but because your reaction extended its control far beyond its actual reach. The Stoic move is different. It asks one question: What part of this is mine to govern? Your thoughts are yours. Your choices are yours. Your effort is yours. Your values are yours. Everything else, other people's behavior, timing, outcomes, recognition, belongs to the external world. When you chase control over those things, you hand your peace away. So the first practical step in reclaiming your power is deceptively simple. Begin each day with a deliberate internal commitment. When you wake up, before you check your phone, before you absorb anyone else's agenda, say this out loud or silently. Today I choose responses that help me grow. This is not a positive affirmation, it is a contract. It reminds you that no matter what happens, you still own your reactions. Then bring to mind one difficulty from the day before. Not the worst one, just a real one. Maybe a colleague dismissed your idea. Maybe a friend canceled plans. Maybe something didn't go as expected. Instead of replaying the story as they did this to me, practice reframing it as this is material for my character. Ask yourself, how can I use this to strengthen a boundary, improve my communication, or refine my priorities? For example, instead of staying stuck in resentment over a canceled plan, you might decide, today I will invest my energy in people who show consistency. That might mean reaching out to someone reliable or spending that time on a personal project. The event remains the same. Your power over it changes completely. Epictetus lived this philosophy under conditions most people would consider unbearable. As a slave, he had no control over his physical freedom. His owner was cruel and once broke his leg deliberately. Yet Epictetus is remembered not as a victim, but as a teacher of resilience. He famously expressed that while others could control his body, his mind remained his own. His leg healed twisted, but his inner life grew unbreakable. The point is not to romanticize hardship. It is to recognize that if control of the inner world was possible in chains, it is possible in inconvenience, rejection, and uncertainty. Once you begin reclaiming your reactions, the next step is to anchor that power through small, consistent actions. This is where many people sabotage themselves. They aim too big. They decide to change everything and then burn out. Stoicism rejects that approach. It values steady pressure over dramatic effort. Choose one item from your waiting audit and commit to giving it 10 focused minutes today, not tomorrow. Today, 10 minutes is small enough to bypass resistance, but large enough to create momentum. Treat it as non-negotiable. If you have a book you've been meaning to read, open it and read one page carefully. If you've been avoiding reaching out professionally, send one thoughtful message without asking for anything in return. If you want to improve your leadership or communication, spend 10 minutes reflecting on one interaction and how you could handle it better next time. Epictetus didn't build influence through grand gestures. He built it through repeated, disciplined responses to daily challenges. Each small win reinforces a critical identity shift. I do what I say I will do. Over time, that identity becomes stronger than fear. This is how control compounds. Small acts of self-command accumulate like interest. The more you prove to yourself that you can act deliberately, the less power uncertainty has over you. Let's ground this in real life. Imagine a teacher facing budget cuts, larger class sizes, and constant policy changes. She cannot control the system. She cannot control funding decisions, but she can control her preparation, her attitude, and the energy she brings into the classroom. When she decides, I will spend 10 minutes planning one engaging moment for my students today, she reclaims her power. The environment stays difficult. Her agency returns. Or consider a parent balancing a demanding job with a side project. Market conditions fluctuate. Clients delay responses. None of that is fully controllable. But he can control his morning ritual. He can affirm focus, then spend 10 minutes drafting one idea or sending one email. Over time, those minutes accumulate into momentum. Stress decreases not because challenges disappear, but because effort becomes aligned. This principle applies everywhere. A student facing rejection reframes it as feedback and spends 10 minutes improving an application. A job seeker treats silence not as a verdict, but as space to refine skills. A creator stops waiting for validation and focuses on producing consistently. Reclaiming your power means refusing to let uncontrollable outcomes dictate your inner state. It means placing your attention where it actually produces results. As you practice this, something important happens. Your emotional range stabilizes. You become less reactive, less shaken by external noise. Not numb, steady. Stoicism is not about suppressing feeling. It is about preventing feelings from hijacking your direction. This is why Epictetus insisted that freedom is internal before it is external. When you own your responses, the world loses its ability to knock you off course. By the end of this phase, waiting has been replaced by deliberate action, and chaos has been met with calm authority. You are no longer hoping circumstances improve. You are training yourself to respond well regardless. And now, with power reclaimed, we move to the next phase, building habits that make this strength permanent. Control without structure fades. Discipline turns insight into identity. In the final part, we will forge resilient habits that prepare you for your highest self, not through comfort, but through intentional challenge. Your power is back. Now we make it unbreakable. Part 3, Forge Unbreakable Habits. Train for your best self. By now you have done the hard work of facing your waiting habits. You've named them, stared them in the face, and taken the first step to act despite hesitation. You've reclaimed your power by focusing on what is truly yours to control. Now comes the third and final phase, turning insight and action into enduring strength through habits that make your best self inevitable. This is where philosophy becomes practice, and practice becomes identity. This is where the abstract wisdom of Epictetus and Seneca becomes a living, breathing part of your daily life. Seneca, the Roman statesman who endured exile and scandal, yet emerged wiser and more capable, left behind a philosophy not of comfort, but of rigorous preparation. He recognized that ease and indulgence are deceptive. They lull us into inaction, allowing potential to erode. Success, virtue, and excellence do not emerge from comfort. They are forged through consistent, intentional effort, even when the world feels chaotic or unfair. Here, habit becomes the vehicle for transformation. The Stoics believed that virtues, courage, discipline, focus, are like muscles. They grow only when exercised consistently under real conditions. The first step in forging unbreakable habits is habit stacking. This simple method leverages routines already embedded in your life to introduce deliberate action. Imagine your day as a chain of existing behaviors: your morning coffee, your commute, your post-workout stretch. Each of these is an anchor, a natural point to attach new meaningful activity. For instance, if your goal is sharper focus, you might link it to coffee preparation. While your coffee brews, take 5 minutes to write down your top 3 tasks for the day. No distractions, no fluff, just essential priorities. This is not arbitrary. Research on habit formation shows that pairing new behaviors with established routines accelerates neural encoding, making the new habit almost automatic. Epictetus would approve. Your inner strength grows without exhausting your willpower. You can apply this principle anywhere. Gratitude, for example, can be stacked onto a commute. After the first song of your playlist, quickly note 3 things you are grateful for in a journal or voice memo. Creative time can follow exercise stretches, turning moments of physical renewal into mental expansion. Even small habits, if consistently repeated, compound over time, shaping your mindset as surely as physical training strengthens the body. Ask yourself, what is an anchor in my daily life that I can use to embed one meaningful habit, commit to it, and track it? Share it with someone for accountability. The simple act of writing it down transforms potential into action. The second strategy is more intense: embracing voluntary discomfort. Stoicism teaches that real resilience grows when we intentionally face minor hardships. This is not masochism, it is training. Just as steel is tempered by heat, so is character tempered by controlled stress. Deliberate discomfort strengthens self-control, builds anti-fragility, and prepares you for situations that would otherwise overwhelm. There are countless ways to practice voluntary discomfort. Intermittent fasting is one example. Skip breakfast 1 day a week and eat a simple, nourishing lunch instead. When hunger arises, remind yourself, this sharpens my self-control. For those seeking social courage, rejection therapy is effective. Reach out to someone you don't know, ask for a brief meeting or advice, or propose a bold idea. Anticipate a no and accept it. The controlled exposure reduces fear over time and builds confidence. Even simpler exercises like leaving your phone in another room for an evening cultivate presence and patience. These actions are minor in isolation, yet they cumulatively forge resilience that persists when life tests you in unpredictable ways. Applying these exercises consistently teaches one central truth. Growth requires action beyond comfort. The world will always present friction, unpredictability, and setbacks. You cannot eliminate these conditions, but you can develop the internal strength to respond effectively. Seneca and Epictetus faced extreme adversity, yet they converted their experiences into wisdom that guided generations. The difference between them and the average person was not circumstance, but habit, the deliberate, repeated training of their thoughts, responses, and actions. Habit stacking and voluntary discomfort are two sides of the same coin. One builds automatic positive behavior, the other builds resilience under pressure. Together, they produce a mind that is deliberate, focused, and robust. One more element completes the process: micro wins. Micro wins are tiny, achievable steps that accumulate into real progress. They are the antidote to overwhelm and procrastination. For example, a professional learning leadership skills might read one page of a book and extract a single actionable insight. A parent trying to balance career and family might replace 5 minutes of social media scrolling with planning a short, meaningful activity for their children. A student preparing to study abroad might spend 10 minutes refining a personal essay rather than waiting for more inspiration. Micro wins are tangible proof of progress, reinforcing your identity as someone who acts decisively and consistently. The accumulation of micro wins creates momentum. Each small success is evidence that you are capable of change, capable of discipline, capable of creating the conditions for excellence. Over time, these wins compound. What once seemed impossible, starting a personal project, reaching professional goals, building healthier relationships, becomes achievable because your mind has been trained to respond effectively, day after day. This is the essence of Stoic habit formation. Transformation does not come in a single heroic leap, but through relentless, deliberate repetition. Let's connect this to real-world examples. A teacher facing budget cuts cannot control policy, but she can control her classroom energy, planning one engaging lesson each day. A parent balancing work and a side project cannot dictate market conditions, but he can control his morning routine, dedicating focused time to one small task. A student facing repeated rejection in college applications cannot control every decision, but she can control daily preparation and continuous refinement of her essays. Each action, each tiny step, is an act of reclaiming power. Each deliberate habit reinforces self-reliance and gradually builds a life aligned with values rather than circumstances. Consistency, however, is key. The Stoics recognize that virtue does not develop from occasional action, but from persistent effort. Forming unbreakable habits is less about the size of any single action and more about the regularity of repeated intentional action. Daily practice, small but deliberate, builds character. Over weeks and months, the individual who once waited for external validation becomes a person of self-directed agency, capable of pursuing goals with courage, discipline, and focus. At this point, all the elements come together. You have audited your waiting habits, identified what to act on, reclaimed control over your responses, and developed habits to make that control durable. You have learned to stack actions, embrace discomfort, and celebrate micro wins. You have begun to internalize Stoic wisdom into living practice. Your life is no longer a passive response to external events. It is a deliberate, continuous creation shaped by your choices, fortified by consistent action, and resilient to the uncertainties of the world. This final stage is the essence of self-mastery. Waiting no longer dictates your life. Fear no longer has the power to paralyze you. Every choice you make, no matter how small, compounds into a life that reflects your highest potential. You are training yourself to respond to difficulty with calm and decisiveness. You are building momentum that grows into achievement. You are shaping a character that endures and thrives, not because the world has been perfect, but because you have forged unbreakable habits in the face of it. Now look at yourself clearly. You are not waiting for someone to lift you up. You are not hoping for circumstances to be ideal. You are not relying on external validation to define your worth or propel you forward. You are the architect, the builder, the strategist of your own life. Every action you take, every deliberate habit you form, strengthens the foundation of your highest self. This is the power of Stoic discipline realized. Your final call to action is simple yet profound. Choose one habit today, link it to an existing routine, and commit to a voluntary challenge that stretches you. Follow through, observe the result, repeat tomorrow. This is the process by which excellence becomes inevitable. You are creating a life that is resistant to delay, impervious to chaos, and guided by your own reasoned choice. As Epictetus asked centuries ago, and as you have now fully confronted, how long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself? The answer is no longer someday. The answer is now. You have audited, acted, reclaimed, and built. The tools are in your hands. The habits are forming. The best version of yourself is not waiting in the future. It is being trained today, one deliberate action at a time. This is the end of the waiting era. No more hoping someone comes to save you. No more standing still, watching life happen to other people. You are building now. Every choice, every micro win, every moment where you choose discipline over comfort is shaping your highest self, quietly, relentlessly. This is Stoic wisdom in motion, not words, not quotes, action. And the moment you commit to this path, your hero era begins. If this message resonated, even a little, prove it to yourself. Hit like so this philosophy reaches others who are still waiting. Subscribe so you don't walk this path alone. And leave a comment, not for me, but as a public commitment to the person you're becoming. Because from this point forward, you are not watching the journey. You are living it.